how do, how do I even talk about this? So, first of all, this is just going to be a little like point of me talking and to the camera without any sort of like script. I am working on another video and that has like a whole like script and editing process, and I need to like record footage. So that's not going to be released for like a while. So that's why I'm going to do like a little like sit down and just talk to the, like a camera for now on, which is gonna be easier. Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I was just checking if my Blue Yeti mic was muted, because I do not want that thing to pick up my voice and then for OBS to pick up two recordings at the same time, because that'd be awful. But anyways, today I'm going to talk about something weird. Now, I'm not going to be talking about something inherently like sus or sussy, but I am going to talk about something I did when I was a minor. And already that probably is a scary thing to think about. Because when you're a kid, you're dumb and you don't really understand or much well know about what the hell you're doing. You kind of just do it. You don't have ulterior motives. You're kind of just thinking in the moment, and you don't really think ahead of time and thinking about, oh, well, how will this affect me in the near future? And that is exactly what's happening, where I'm going to be talking about happened in this video. Now, I wanted to preface this by saying that how do I even say this? This whole story involves four people, I guess. But this story involves a YouTuber who is probably very well known, and it's not entirely directed at them, but more so a group of these YouTubers. Now, I wanted to say that I want to make this very, very, very clear. These people did not groom me. These people did not do something weird or illegal or questionable. They did nothing, okay? They never asked me for anything. They never told me to specifically do something for them. Oh, there was no like weird like forcing thing that was like put upon me or anything like that. This was something that I entirely wanted to do when I was a minor and didn't think about what it would entail in the future. And so you might be thinking like, well, if I have to clarify this, maybe I must have done something horribly, horribly wrong. And that's not the case, really. This isn't something that's entirely like super bad, like a minor giving someone porn, or a minor furry drawing porn for adults, and those adults don't know their true age. I didn't do that, unlike some people I know have done that. But that's not what I did, okay? I never these people never knew my age, and I never told them my age, because it was kind of just like a quick like spur of the moment, I guess you could say. And the funny thing is that this kind of led like nowhere, to be honest. It's just something that happened to me, and that's it. It just happened. It didn't lead to like some controversy or like some information later down the line. It led to nothing, really. It kind of just happened and then stopped. But it's been something that has always been in the back of my mind, thinking that like, this is so weird that it happened, and I cannot believe that it happened. And yet it happened, and I squandered an opportunity. So what am I talking about exactly? Well, back in I don't remember how old ago, I was in high school, maybe a sophomore or junior year, somewhere around there. And my friend invited me to a camping trip, right? And we went. It was like the 4th of July weekend, and we went on the camping trip, right? Prior to that camping trip, there is a very well-known podcast called The Official Podcast, which is mainly well known for Charlie and his other three, guests, and occasionally someone that they invite on the podcast to talk with. And so usually it's Charlie, Kaya, Andrew, and Jackson. Jack is what they kind of like go by, because that's what their names form. And they used to do a thing on The Official Podcast where they would what was it? Viewers could call in and ask something and get on the podcast. Now, while this being true, it was kind of a random thing because like you could only imagine someone with like a million subscribers getting hundreds of thousands of calls. And funny enough, they didn't like give their official phone number to like call in and like get on the podcast, or like hear their call on the podcast. They didn't give away their phone number. They gave someone else's phone number. I think their name was Doug. It was someone they didn't like, and they were just like, and Kaya, I think it was Kaya, yeah. He was like, hey, if you want to talk to us guys, harass this guy and call him 1,000 times, and he'll give us your voicemail so we can hear you on our podcast, or something like that. And me, being a young retard fan of theirs, I was like, I could do this. I have a phone number. I have a phone. I can call in and maybe get on the podcast. Now, I wasn't really expecting to get on the or even get my voice shown on the podcast, because it's like 1 in a million chance I do. Like, literally, there's probably dozens, if not hundreds of people calling every single day, sending in voicemails to hopefully get on the podcast. There was one kid that like begged to like for them to take a bath in milk, and that I don't know if that went anywhere, but it happened. It to show the spectrum of things I get called on there. There was another guy who like called in drunk, but I called in, and the thing I remember saying was kind of in a joking way, where I was like, I just said it and I was like, hey, this is so ridiculous, it might get on there, but more than likely it wouldn't. I didn't really have any hopes to like get on the podcast or anything like that. It was kind of just like a little troll, a little meme. It wasn't entirely to be like serious. I didn't pour my heart out into this whole call. I kind of just called and left it at that. Later down the line, well, I first should say that the official podcast is like a weekly thing. So it's like I saw that episode where they were like, call us and like we'll get you on the podcast, and that was like on like a Monday or something, and I called them, and then it would be like a week until I would even see that if I popped up on the podcast, which I fully well knew I wouldn't. And then since I had that much doubt, I was just like I kind of just forgot about it entirely. And my friend, he told me that like, oh hey, on this 4th of July weekend we're gonna go to a campground, and I was like, oh, that sounds fun. So I went with them. I went to the campground. We stayed at the campground, yada yada yada. 4th of July passed, we were in a campground in the mountains, blah blah. Then we came back. I was finally back, because up the mountain you would assume you would obviously know that there's no signal or internet or anything. There's nothing there. I didn't get any notifications about like YouTube uploads or anything. It was just me, my friend, his parents in the wilderness. And so when I get home, I'm like, okay, now that I'm back home, I'm gonna check up on stuff. I'm gonna look at what kind of YouTube uploads I got. I'm gonna start like doodling a bit, because when I was in this age of my life, I think roughly 16 or 17, definitely not 15. I definitely know I wasn't 15 then. Somewhere around 17 and 16. I was like drawing. I was slowly becoming a degenerate. Not fully yet. I wasn't fully a degenerate yet, but I was slowly getting there. And so I was doodling some kind of stuff, and then I saw that a new episode of the official podcast came out, and I was hyped, because at this point I actually forgot that I called in about I called into the podcast. I actually forgot that I called in, because I really was a fan. I just enjoyed putting the podcast on my phone in the background and just listening to it while I do whatever. Because that's what podcast is for. I kind of just like having background music while I do whatever. And so as I'm doodling or drawing or whatever, I start hearing the podcast in the background, right? And then they start to talk about what's it called? The wow, I'm already forgetting it. The voicemails to them. They started talking about that, and that's when it snapped. I was like, oh, right. I called in and left my. I didn't leave my number, but like I called in into the voicemail, and I was like, oh, maybe I got in. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. So like I sat there, like I paused everything I was doing, and I listened. I listened to them talk about whatever. And once they got to the started actually playing the voicemails, I was sitting there and like I was kind of just going like, oh yeah, I definitely didn't make it. They're gonna hear 1 or 2 voicemails, and it's not gonna be me, and then they're gonna move on. So that was kind of lingering in my mind when heard they started talking about the voicemails. So I sit there and I'm waiting, and then I hear this little clip play.
Let me see. I want to make this one the last one to wrap it up about the furry discussion. Somebody is offering us this here, and I would like to agree.
And I make ironic furry porn.
Great.
This is for the my boys at the official podcast.
You furs, yeah.
If they would like me to draw them something, they don't even have to pay me. They could even make fun of me, and I'd still do this. But I would unironically draw them as furries.
Do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do it and don't send it to me.
100%
Send it to them, not me.
Do it. Send it to us and Dick. Both of us, all of us. I'm down, man. I'm super fucking. I don't know if there's any rules against like porn on Reddit, on like subreddit like ours. Upload it to our subreddit. Send it to us personally. We'll share it, man. Totally. Do us as
make sure if you censor it and send it on Twitter, we'll retweet it.
No, send it to my Twitter uncensored, and I'll retweet it.
Porn is totally fine on Twitter. What are you talking about? Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. There's porn stars have like some of the biggest accounts in there. I watched Riley Reid roll around in a toy car butt naked in a suburban household neighborhood. Oh, I thought people got banned for this kind of shit. On Instagram they do.
Twitter's fine with it. But yeah,
no,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's just Instagram.
Whoever that is, tell wherever you post it, the Twitter, the subreddit, just so you don't get shit, tell them you have our blessing, because I 100% would appreciate this art.
I could not believe it. I was so happy that I actually made it onto the official podcast. I was blown out of my mind. But then I was sad because the thing is, I was in the mountains for 3 days and I never knew how I never knew how long I was actually going to be there. It lasted 3 days, I think, and I never knew that this podcast would come out during those 3 days I was in the mountains. So it's already been like 2 or 3 days since this podcast has come out. Not to mention that it's also early available for Patreon subscribers, which I wasn't one because I was a kid and I didn't know what the hell Patreon was, much less how to subscribe to someone on Patreon. So I was like, oh no, I need to start doing something, right? And obviously in the clip you heard me say that I was going to draw them as furries because I draw ironic furry porn. And so I get to drawing, and obviously it sucks. It sucks because I am a kid who doesn't know anything about autonomy or poses or anything. It looks awful. Now here's a cropped version of it because obviously I can't, even though it is a horribly deviant art level picture of art, I still can't show it. It's like you just can't. So here's a cropped version of it, and you can have your imagination fill in the lines there. And so I was thinking that, like, okay, here I drew them this. I think it even took 2 days or 1 day, but I'm like, okay, here we go. Here is this drawing. How do I give it to them? Because the only way you could really contact Charlie and his other mates was through Twitter, because you can't just be like on YouTube going like, hey guys, I'm the guy who said I was drawing you as a bunch of furries, message me. Like they don't read comments, I would assume. Like who the hell could read like over a 1,000 comments? So I started to think, okay, well, I can't reach them out through YouTube, I probably can't reach them out through Gmail. The next best thing I could do is getting in contact with them through Reddit or Twitter, because I have heard them talk about mentioning the subreddit, the official podcast subreddit, and I've also heard them mention Twitter, and I know that on Twitter you can DM people. So I first go on Twitter and I'm going through like, okay, who can I message? Charlie, I'm gonna message Charlie. His DMs are closed. Okay, I'm gonna message Kaya, send him a message telling him that I have the fur, that I was the guy on the call, that I wanted to draw them as furries, and message me and I can give you that image. To this day he still hasn't responded. I would assume because he doesn't look on Twitter that much, but it's whatever. Then I look at Jackson and I'm like, okay, hey Jackson, I'm the same guy who called on Twitter or on the podcast. I said, "Oh, Joe, with your furries, reach out to me if you want to have that image." and again, didn't answer back. So it's whatever. I started to get a little worried now because I'm like, okay, I definitely missed my opportunity here. It's already been 3-4 days ever since that this episode came out, so it was already old news. A day in internet is like a year. It was old news, basically old news. So then I reach out to Jackson. This is, no, I reach out to Andrew, right? Yeah. So it was Andrew. I reach out to Andrew and I tell him, again, I'm like, I was a guy that was in the voicemail. I said I drew a bunch of furries, and I want to send you the art. Message me back if you want to see it. And through a stroke of pure luck or fate or whatever, right? He messages me back on Twitter. Also, keep in mind, I made a Twitter specifically for the reason of getting in contact with these guys. I never had a Twitter before, so it's not like, I did this specifically to give them this art, right? So then he messaged me. He's like, oh, sweet, man, send it to me. And also on my Twitch streams, I do like community art, and shit. And he's like, send me in it, and I'll definitely react to it or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, right? So then I send it to him. I give him the image, and he's surprisingly, he's like, yo, man, this is epic. Thank you so much for this. I'm definitely gonna look at it on my Twitch VOD or Twitch stream, right? And I was like, no way. I actually got in contact with someone from the official podcast. I wasn't fanboying hard. I wasn't going on Twitter going like, oh my god, thank you so much. Oh, you know what this means? No. I wasn't fanboying. I was kind of just like, oh, here's the art, and that's it. And then I was thinking like, okay, well, hopefully Andrew shows the other guys that I actually drew them something, and if they don't, then maybe there's another way to have them see it. So then, while on that same clip on the official podcast, they specifically said that when I draw this picture, this furry porn of them, that I should post it on the subreddit, and also that if anyone removes it from the subreddit, they would get a stern talking to, I believe is what they said. Or, roll the clip.
Whoever that is, tell wherever you post it, the Twitter, the subreddit, just so you don't get shit, tell them you have our blessing, because I 100% would appreciate this art.
And I was like, oh, well, now I gotta make a Reddit account, because again, I never had a Twitter, I never had a Reddit, I never had any of these things. The only reason I have these things to this day are specifically to have reached out to the official podcast boys, right? That's the only reason. I never did it because I was like some like tips for Dora Milady, a Redditor, a loser, or a Twitter spurg or whatever. I was never anyone like that, I never had any of that. I was a simple boy, I never had my life corrupted by such things. So then I make a Reddit account, and I go to the official podcast subreddit, and I post the image, and I titled it like, oh, hey, I'm the same guy who called up on the voicemail, and here's an image. I believe I marked it not safe for work because it technically is porn, and I posted it, right? Next thing you know, the post got deleted by a moderator. I don't remember exactly who, but it got deleted. That kind of sucked. It got deleted. Next thing you know, it gets reinstated. The post gets brought back, and I don't remember I don't know whose Reddit this account is. It's probably one of the crew members. I couldn't really decipher it. And they were like, whoever fucking took that down, I swear to God, I'm gonna whatever, right? They were clearly upset that it got taken down, right? And funny enough, the day I make my Reddit account and the day I post this is the day I get my first Reddit silver. Who else actually, maybe several others probably on that, but I was honored. I was like I posted this and they clearly have seen it, and I've been given Reddit silver. I didn't know what the hell Reddit silver was, but it seemed important because I got a message that was like, oh, you've been gifted your first Reddit silver. You want to thank the person that gave it to you? And obviously I thanked them, and I don't remember exactly who gave it to me. I'll probably look this up, right? But I did all that. I reached out to everyone. I told them about this and everything, and I got into contact with Andrew, thank God. But after that whole thing, it was it was kind of the end of it. Nothing really came from that. On the later podcast episode, the one after this one, they did mention that they got art from someone that drew them as furries, but it wasn't me, because the picture that they talked about, they turned Critical into like an emperor penguin or something like that, and in my image, I made Critical. I drew him as like a husky kind of dog with like stuff over his eyes, because that was back then when he had like crazy hair, and he was like, I refuse to cut it because I'm a badass and I think I'm cool or something like that. And so I was still listening, and I was like, okay, maybe Andrew will come in and like tell them that like, oh guys, here's actually this other image that we got. That unfortunately never happened. They never said anything about the image I drew or that I reached out to them. Nothing. The entire podcast episode started and ended without me being mentioned even once. And I was disappointed, but I was also like, well, yeah, I guess this kind of makes sense, because again, I saw this episode like 2 or 3 days after it was released. So it was already old news, because again, in internet, time flies. Like, relevancy is so hard to maintain on anything, topics, news, whatever. And so I was kind of thinking that like, oh well, yeah, that kind of makes sense, I was 3 days late to this, and they probably also forgot, or probably didn't. I was more disappointed that Kaya, who specifically said to like post it on the subreddit, I'm kind of sad that he didn't reply. So that was kind of sad, but it happens. You might be thinking that like, oh well, maybe I got like some sort of pushback. Maybe I got like a couple people were like, oh my god, like, and they start like following and retweeting or whatever, right? No. Also no. You see, when I gave the image to Kaya, I wasn't all of a sudden like oh, here's my FA, here's my Twitter, here's my YouTube, here's my Reddit, here's my, like, please mention it, I beg you, thank you so much, and all. No. I didn't do any of that. When I got into contact with Andrew and gave him the image, it was kind of just like, here's the image, and you're welcome. I didn't, give him my for affinity. I didn't give him my Twitter. I didn't do any of that. I kind of just gave him the image, and I was like, happy to have appeared on the podcast for like 3 seconds, and yeah. And again, in my mind, when this whole thing was happening, I was, like stoked. I was like, this is amazing. This is awesome, right? But then at the same time, it's like nothing is. I'm just processing in my like retard child head, like, oh, I gave them art and they liked it, and whatever, right? But then once I became like 18 years old, you know that whole thing when you become a 3-year-old, all of a sudden like you just snap into like consciousness. That didn't happen to me until I was 18. Okay, that didn't ever happen to me. When I turned 18 and I got more sort of involved into the whole fandom thing about like furries and all that shit, I started to realize I was like, it clicked in my head, and I was like, oh wait, I drew these guys porn while being a minor and gave it to them. And that's when I was like, oh, maybe this is bad. Maybe this is like really bad. And ever since then, I've never really talked about it publicly. I've never gone on point to state like oh guys, I was on the podcast, guys, like I'm cool. No. When all that went down, and even after it, I kind of just stayed silent about it. I never told my friends that like oh, I was on the podcast and I was I was kind of a celebrity for like 0.3 No. I never told them that. When that whole thing went down, it kind of just happened, and it was something that I kept close to me in a literal terms, as I never told anyone else. Not even my online friends, not even them. One, because if I did, I'd be telling them that like I'm a furry, and you can only imagine what that would do to someone in high school, in high school in a small town where I used to live, that would be like devastating, you know, because like to some people when they hear furries, it's like oh dude, oh my god, you're a furry, you're gonna fuck that dog over there, does that dog look fucking hot to you, you're gonna go bang it, you know. Furries don't have the biggest best reputation for like anything, so it would kind of just be like social suicide if I was like hey guys, I'm a furry retard, you know. It would kind of be it'd be social suicide at that point. So I decided to, you know, keep this whole story with me until the day I die, or until I graduated high school and all my friends and everyone that I knew from high school is long gone and I have not maintained contact with them. So I feel more comfortable about talking about this. And again, I want to state again and again, I don't want this to be some whole like oh, they groomed, or there's like allegations, or like anything again, right? Because again, they never even asked for my age, and I never told them my age because I didn't again, when I was a kid, I didn't really think that was such a big issue, right? Because it was just a drawing, you know, it was just a drawing, guys, you know. But thankfully they never, you know, I never asked for like payment, or I never like spread my like socials or whatever. I never did any of that, you know. I'm like, I never did any of that, you know. I never asked them for money. They never paid me. I never hid my age, and they never asked me for my age. So it's kind of like, how could they know? You know, I never did any of that, you know. Unlike someone else I've known who has hid their age and sold porn to adults without disclosing their age for money, you know. I haven't done anything like that, you know, thankfully. So, you know, that's a good thing, you know. You know, props to, you know, young me. Props to you. But yeah. This has always been something I've always thought about. I'm thinking like, is this okay to talk about? You know, is this okay to mention? Because, you know, again, it involves a minor drawing porn and giving it to an adult, you know. It's kind of it's kind of been a topic to me to be like, ooh, like, should I talk about this? Is it safe? Is it okay? Am I risking, you know, my online presence? Am I risking theirs, you know? But in the end, I guess it doesn't really matter, because I've never stated that I was like this like family friendly, you know, safe account or anything like that. I'm a degenerate, you know. I'm an open degenerate. I'm not someone who's safe for work. I'm not someone who is family friendly. I am a online degenerate. And while I am one, I am not someone who is a total degenerate who acts like a well, you know, furry, you know. I enjoy the media. It's pretty cool. I like looking at art, certain art. But I never really involve myself, and I'm never openly like, guys, look, I'm a furry YouTuber, guys. Whoa. No. I'm, at the end of the day, I am just a degenerate online who draws some very risque stuff and uploads to YouTube for monetary gain. That is all. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. What else? Follow the second channel. The second channel holds archives of my Twitch streams and soon-to-be Twitch highlights. So, you know, follow that place as well. And I think that's it. Like, subscribe, and share. You know, whatever. And hey, Kaya, if by some miracle you're watching this, not Kaya, Andrew, if by some miracle you're watching this, I am willing to draw more porn of you guys. And I probably won't feel ashamed of it. Probably.